I was holding the champagne flute my daughter-in-law had just poured for me when my grandson reached across the table for the breadbasket. His elbow knocked my glass, and it tipped toward my son-in-law Brian, splashing across his shirt. Brian laughed it off, grabbed my glass, and downed what was left in one gulp before I could say a word. 25 minutes later, he collapsed in my hallway, and the paramedics told us his heart had stopped twice on the way to the hospital. My name is Robert Hutchison. I'm 63 years old, and until 3 weeks ago, I thought I knew my family. I'm a retired chemistry teacher from Brisbane. Spent 37 years teaching kids about elements and compounds and chemical reactions. Never thought I'd need to use that knowledge to save my own life. But here we are. Let me back up. My wife Margaret passed away 4 years ago. Breast cancer. She fought it for 2 years, and I was with her every single day until the end. After she died, I didn't know what to do with myself. The house felt too big, too quiet. Our daughter Emma kept calling, kept checking on me, kept inviting me to Sunday dinners. She's always been thoughtful like that. Takes after her mother. Emma married Brian Caldwell 7 years ago. Good bloke, I thought. Works in finance, makes decent money, treats Emma well. They've got 2 kids, my grandkids, Oliver, who's 9, and Sophie, who's 6. I love those kids more than anything. After Margaret died, they became my reason to keep going. Every Sunday dinner at Emma's place, every school play, every football match. I was there. About 8 months ago, Emma started talking about how tight money was getting. School fees, mortgage, Brian's car loan. I didn't think much of it. Everyone complains about money, but then she started bringing it up every time we talked. She'd mention how I was living in this big 4-bedroom house all by myself, how I didn't really need all that space, how it must be hard to maintain at my age. I brushed it off. I loved that house. Margaret and I bought it 32 years ago when Emma was just a baby. Every room had memories. Her first steps in the kitchen, birthday parties in the backyard, Margaret's garden that I still tended every weekend. I wasn't ready to leave. Then Emma suggested I move in with her and Brian. Said they had a spare room. Said I shouldn't be alone. Said the kids would love having Grandpa around all the time. It sounded nice, actually, but something felt off about the way she said it. Too eager. Too planned, like she'd rehearsed it. I told her I'd think about it. That seemed to frustrate her. She started bringing up the house value. Did I know what it was worth? Had I thought about estate planning? What was going to happen to it when I died? These weren't normal conversations for a daughter to have with her father. Not when I'm 63 and healthy. I cycle 20 kilometers every Sunday morning. I'm not planning on dying anytime soon. 2 months ago, things shifted. Emma's husband Brian started coming by the house. Said he wanted to help with yard work, fix things around the place. I appreciated it at first. It was nice having another man around to handle the heavy stuff. But Brian had this way of wandering through the house while I made tea. I'd find him in the study or upstairs in the spare bedrooms. He'd always have an excuse, looking for a bathroom, admiring the moldings, checking if that window seal needed replacing. One afternoon, I came home from my cycling group and found Brian in my bedroom. He jumped when he saw me, said he'd been looking for me, thought he heard me call out, but I'd been gone for 2 hours. He knew I was out cycling. I didn't say anything at the time, but I started noticing things. My filing cabinet in the study had been rifled through. Papers weren't where I left them. Someone had been in my medicine cabinet in the bathroom. I take medication for my heart. Nothing serious. Just a blood thinner called apixaban, prescribed after I had a minor arrhythmia episode 3 years ago. It keeps my blood from clotting too much. Keeps my heart rhythm steady. I take 5 milligrams every morning with breakfast. Very routine. Except 2 weeks before what I'm about to tell you happened, I noticed my pill bottle was lighter than it should have been. I counted. 8 pills. Missing. I'd just refilled the prescription 10 days earlier. Should have been 20 pills left. Only had 12. I'm a chemistry teacher. I know what blood thinners do. If someone took too much, especially someone not prescribed it, their blood would lose its ability to clot. They'd hemorrhage internally. They'd die. And it would look like a medical emergency. Natural causes. No one would question it. I didn't want to believe it. Couldn't believe it. Emma was my daughter. Brian was family. Why would they do this? But I couldn't shake the feeling. I started paying attention, really paying attention. Emma called me 3 days later. Said she was hosting a small lunch that Sunday to celebrate Brian's promotion at work. Just family. The kids, Brian's sister Caroline, and me. She insisted I come. Said it wouldn't be the same without me. I said yes, but I felt this weight in my stomach the whole week. That Sunday, I drove to their house in Ashgrove. Nice place. 2-story brick home with a decent yard. Emma met me at the door with a hug. She seemed nervous, kept talking too fast, laughing too loud. The kids ran up and hugged me, which made everything feel almost normal. Almost. Brian was in the kitchen. He shook my hand, offered me a beer. I said I'd have one later. We all sat down in the living room. Caroline arrived 20 minutes later. She's Brian's older sister, works as a solicitor in the city. Sharp woman. We'd met a handful of times at family events. She greeted everyone warmly. But when she looked at me, there was something in her eyes. Recognition? Warning? I couldn't tell. Emma had set up a nice spread. Sandwiches, salads, fruit. She'd even baked a cake, which was unusual. Emma wasn't much of a baker. Said she'd wanted to make the day special. Brian opened a bottle of champagne. Said we should toast to new beginnings. I remember thinking that was an odd phrase. New beginnings. What was beginning? Emma poured champagne for everyone. She handed me my glass last. I watched her pour it. Watched her hand it to me. She smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. I held the glass. Didn't drink yet. Everyone was talking, laughing. Oliver was telling me about his cricket match last weekend. Sophie was showing me a drawing she'd done of our family. Then it happened. Oliver reached across the table for the bread basket. His elbow hit my champagne flute. The glass tipped, splashed all over Brian's shirt. He jumped up, laughing, said it was no problem, grabbed my glass and drank what was left before I could react. Emma's face went white. I mean, all the color just drained out of her. Brian set the glass down, still chuckling. Went to the kitchen to grab a towel. I looked at Emma. She was staring at the empty glass. Her hands were shaking. Caroline noticed too. She leaned forward and said, "Emma?" Emma snapped out of it. Said she was fine, just startled by the spill. But I knew. In that moment, I knew. That champagne was meant for me. Something was in it, and Brian had just drunk it instead. We kept talking, eating. The kids played. But I watched Brian, watched Emma. Brian seemed fine for the first 10 minutes. Then he started sweating, said he felt warm, loosened his collar. Emma kept asking if he was okay. He said he was fine, just needed some air. He stood up, walked toward the hallway. Then he stopped, put his hand on the wall, said he felt dizzy. Caroline stood up, asked if he needed to sit down. Brian shook his head, tried to take another step. Then his knees buckled. He went down hard. His head hit the floor. Emma screamed. I ran over. Brian's eyes were open but unfocused. His breathing was shallow. I checked his pulse. It was racing, erratic. I told Caroline to call an ambulance. Now, Emma was on the floor next to Brian, crying, saying his name over and over. The kids were scared, asking what was wrong with Daddy. I told Oliver to take Sophie to the backyard. He did. Good kid. Caroline was on the phone with emergency services. I stayed with Brian. His lips were turning blue. I knew what that meant. His blood wasn't clotting right. He was bleeding internally. The ambulance arrived in 8 minutes. Felt like hours. The paramedics worked on him right there in the hallway. I heard one of them say his heart had stopped. They used the defibrillator. Once, twice, got him back. Caroline took the kids to her place. I was left standing in Emma's living room, staring at that empty champagne glass on the table. I picked it up, carefully, wrapped it in a tea towel, put it in my car. Then I went home. I didn't know what else to do. My hands were shaking. My daughter, my own daughter. I sat in my kitchen for 2 hours, just staring at that glass wrapped in the towel. What was I supposed to do? Call the police? Accuse my own child of trying to kill me? I couldn't sleep that night. Just kept replaying it in my head. The way Emma poured that glass. The way she went pale when Brian drank it. The way he collapsed. I knew what blood thinner overdose looked like. I'd taught about anticoagulants for years. Warfarin, apixaban, rivaroxaban. Too much, and your blood can't clot. You hemorrhage. You die. The next morning, I called the hospital. Asked about Brian Caldwell. They said he was in intensive care. Stable but critical. They'd found dangerously high levels of apixaban in his blood, same medication I take. But Brian doesn't take blood thinners. He's 34, healthy, no heart problems. There was no reason for that drug to be in his system unless someone put it there. I needed to know for sure. I'm a scientist. I needed evidence. I took that champagne glass to a private lab in Fortitude Valley. Told them I needed a rush toxicology screen. Cost me $300. I didn't care. Results came back in 2 days. Apixaban, 80 milligrams crushed into the champagne. That's 16 of my pills. More than enough to kill someone my age with my heart condition. I sat in my car outside the lab and cried. My daughter tried to kill me. My Emma. The little girl I taught to ride a bike. The teenager I helped with her chemistry homework. The woman I walked down the aisle 7 years ago. She tried to murder me, but I needed to know why. And I needed to know if she was working alone. I couldn't go to the police yet, not without understanding the full picture. So I did what any retired chemistry teacher would do. I investigated. I went through my filing cabinet at home, the one Brian had been rifling through. Found what he'd been looking for. My will. It was gone. I keep a copy at my solicitor's office, but the one I kept at home was missing. Then I checked my life insurance policy. Also gone. I logged into my bank account online. Someone had tried to access it 4 times in the past month. Failed password attempts. They'd been locked out, but they'd tried. I called my solicitor, Martin Shepard. We've known each other for 20 years. I asked him if anyone had contacted him about my estate. He hesitated. Then he said yes. Emma had called him 6 weeks ago. Asked about the process of executing a will. Asked how long it would take. Asked if there were any ways to speed it up. Martin had told her those were questions she should be asking with me present. She'd never called back. I felt sick. This wasn't impulsive. This was planned. Emma and Brian had been planning to kill me for at least 6 weeks, maybe longer. They wanted my house. They wanted my life insurance. They wanted everything. And they were willing to kill me to get it. But I needed more. I needed proof of intent. I called Caroline, Brian's sister, asked if I could meet her for coffee. She agreed. We met at a cafe in New Farm the next morning. She looked tired. Said Brian was still in hospital, but improving. They thought he'd make a full recovery. I was glad. Whatever Brian had done, I didn't want him dead. I asked Caroline if Brian and Emma had been having financial problems. She looked at me for a long moment. Then she said yes. Bad problems. Brian had been gambling, online poker, lost nearly $80,000 over the past year. They'd remortgaged the house, maxed out credit cards. They were facing bankruptcy. I asked if she knew they'd been pressuring me to move in with them. She said yes. She'd argued with Brian about it, told him it wasn't right. He'd said I was old and alone and wouldn't need the house much longer anyway. She'd told him that was a horrible thing to say. They'd stopped talking for a few weeks after that. Then I asked her the hard question. I asked if she thought Emma and Brian were capable of hurting me to get my house. Caroline's eyes filled with tears. She said she didn't want to believe it, but the way Emma had reacted when Brian drank that champagne, the way she'd gone pale, the way she'd seemed terrified instead of confused. Caroline said she'd been thinking about it ever since. Something wasn't right. I told her about the missing pills, the toxicology report, the missing documents. Caroline put her head in her hands. She said she'd noticed Emma and Brian whispering a lot lately, stopping conversations when she walked into rooms. She'd thought they were planning a surprise party or something. Not this. Never this. I asked her what I should do. She said I needed to go to the police. Now, this was attempted murder. I was the intended victim. They needed to know. But I was scared. What would happen to Emma? To my grandkids? Would they put her in prison? Would I ever see Oliver and Sophie again? Caroline said I didn't have a choice. If I didn't report this, what would stop them from trying again? And next time, I might not be lucky enough to have a glass knocked over. Next time, I'd be the one in the hospital. She was right. I knew she was right. I called the police that afternoon, told them everything. They sent 2 detectives to my house. I showed them the toxicology report, the missing pills, the missing documents. I told them about Brian and Emma's financial problems, about Emma's calls to my solicitor, about Brian's odd visits to my house. The detectives took it seriously. They went to the hospital and got a sample of Brian's blood, confirmed the apixaban overdose. They interviewed Brian. He'd been confused at first. Didn't know how the medication got in his system. Then one of the detectives mentioned the champagne. Brian went quiet. They said his face changed. He asked if they thought someone poisoned him. They said it was a possibility. Then they asked if anyone else was supposed to drink that champagne. Brian looked at the wall for a long time. Then he said, Emma poured that glass for her father. I drank it by accident. The detectives interviewed Emma next. They didn't tell her Brian had said anything. Just asked her to walk them through the day. She told the story. Said she'd poured champagne for everyone. Said Oliver knocked the glass over. Said Brian drank what was left. They asked if she'd noticed anything unusual about the champagne. She said no. They asked if she kept any medications in the house that weren't prescribed to her or Brian. She said no. Then they told her they'd found apixaban in Brian's blood. 80 milligrams. Enough to kill someone. Emma started crying. Said she didn't know how that could happen. Said maybe someone at the champagne shop tampered with the bottle. The detectives didn't argue. Just asked if they could search the house. Emma said yes. They found my pills. 8 of them, crushed into powder, in a plastic baggie hidden in Emma's jewelry box. They found internet search history on Emma's laptop. How much blood thinner is lethal? Apixaban overdose symptoms. How long does apixaban stay in system? Inheritance laws, Queensland. Life insurance payout waiting period. They arrested Emma that night. Charged her with attempted murder. Brian was charged too. As an accessory. He'd known. He'd helped. They'd planned it together. My daughter and her husband had decided I was worth more dead than alive. The court case took 7 months. I had to testify. Had to sit there and explain how I noticed the missing pills. How I felt when I realized what they'd tried to do. Emma wouldn't look at me. Not once. Her solicitor tried to argue it was a mental breakdown, tried to say the financial stress had made her snap. But the evidence was clear. The planning, the searches, the stolen pills. This wasn't a breakdown. This was premeditated murder. Emma was sentenced to 12 years. Brian got 10. They'll be eligible for parole in 6 and 5 years, respectively. I don't know if I'll ever speak to Emma again. I don't know if I can forgive her. She's my daughter, but she tried to kill me. How do you come back from that? The hardest part was telling the kids, Oliver and Sophie. They're living with Caroline now. She got emergency custody when Emma and Brian were arrested. I see them every weekend. They ask about their mum, ask when she's coming home. I don't know what to tell them. How do you explain to a 9-year-old that his mother tried to murder his grandfather? How do you make that make sense? I tell them their mum made a very bad mistake, that she's going to be away for a while, that I love them, and Caroline loves them, and we're going to take care of them. Oliver's smart. I think he knows it's more than just a mistake. But he doesn't push. Sophie still draws pictures of our family. All of us, together, including Emma, including Brian. She signs them. When we're all together again. I don't think we'll ever all be together again. Not like before. That family is gone. The trust is gone. Margaret would be heartbroken. I'm grateful she didn't live to see this. It would have destroyed her. I still live in the house, still tend Margaret's garden, still cycle 20 kilometers every Sunday morning. But I had all the locks changed, installed cameras, got a medical alert system. I take my apixaban every morning, but I keep the bottle in a locked safe now. I count the pills every single day. Caroline brings the kids by on Sundays. We have dinner, play games, try to build some kind of normal life for them. It's not the same, but it's something. They need stability. They need to know that not all adults will betray them, that not all family members will hurt them. I've learned something through all this. Something I never wanted to learn. You can love someone completely and still not really know them. You can raise someone, shape someone, believe in someone, and they can still surprise you in the worst possible way. Love doesn't guarantee loyalty. Family doesn't guarantee safety. But here's what else I learned. You have to trust your instincts. When something feels wrong, it probably is. I noticed those missing pills. I noticed Brian's odd behavior. I noticed Emma's desperation. I didn't want to believe it. But I didn't ignore it, either. That attention to detail saved my life. My chemistry background saved my life. My willingness to investigate, even when it hurt, saved my life. If you're listening to this, and you're feeling like something's off in your family, in your relationships, don't brush it aside. Don't tell yourself you're being paranoid. Pay attention. Ask questions. Protect yourself. Because the sad truth is, sometimes the people closest to us are the ones most willing to hurt us. And if you don't protect yourself, no one else will. I'm 63 years old. I thought I'd spend these years spoiling my grandkids and enjoying retirement with my daughter's family. Instead, I'm visiting my grandkids at their aunt's house, and my daughter is in prison for trying to murder me. Life doesn't always go the way you plan. Sometimes the people you trust most will betray you. Sometimes the family you'd die for would rather see you dead. But you survive. You adapt. You keep going. Because what other choice is there? I'm still here. I'm still cycling every Sunday. Still tending Margaret's garden. Still being grandpa to Oliver and Sophie. Emma took a lot from me. My trust, my peace, my sense of safety. But she didn't take my life. And she didn't take my relationship with my grandkids. I'm still here, and I'm going to make sure they know that family should mean love, not manipulation. Trust, not exploitation. Safety, not danger. That's my story. That's what happened when my grandson accidentally knocked over my champagne glass and saved my life. I hope you never have to learn these lessons the way I did. I hope your family is everything you believe it to be. But if something feels wrong, trust that feeling. Investigate. Protect yourself. Because in the end, you're the only one who can. To those of you going through something similar, whether it's family betrayal or any kind of trust being broken, remember this. Betrayal tells you more about the other person than it does about you. You are not foolish for trusting. You are not weak for loving. You are not to blame for someone else's choices. They made their decisions. They live with those consequences. You just have to decide how you move forward. I chose to move forward by protecting my grandchildren, by making sure they have stability and love, by teaching them that mistakes have consequences, but people can still choose to do better. I don't know if Emma will ever understand the magnitude of what she did. I don't know if she'll ever truly be sorry, but I know I did everything I could. I loved her. I provided for her. I trusted her. She made her choice. I'm making mine, and my choice is to keep living, to keep loving the people who deserve it, to keep being present for Oliver and Sophie, to keep Margaret's garden growing, to keep cycling those 20 kilometers every Sunday morning. Because life is precious, and I'm not going to waste a single day of it on bitterness or fear. I'm going to live it fully, cautiously, but fully. That's all any of us can do. Thank you for listening to my story. I hope it helps someone out there recognize warning signs before it's too late. I hope it reminds you that your instincts matter. Your safety matters. You matter. Don't ever let anyone convince you otherwise. Not even family. Especially not family.